Okay, welcome back. Yeah, sorry. As I mentioned something, I do something in my life.
Chapter 11, School Days. A brief interlude to give us a chance to see the middle school lives of some of the characters. Okay, so it might not be Sume, but the Tokyo International School wasn't all that bad, Hantasiro decided. The school boasted the highest number of international students in Japan, with students from every single continent attending. Even a girl from Antarctica. While he might not be the best student in the world, he loved studying other cultures and their art. Someday, he'd earn a hero license, but unlike most aspiring heroes, he wanted to work directly for the World Heroes Association. Traveling the world, getting to meet people from different countries and backgrounds, those things excited him more than the thought of beating up villains or hitting the top 10. He bumped into someone and cursed himself for getting lost in his thoughts. "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay?" he asked. The girl with blonde hair and equine features he bumped into said something in English, and then finished with sorry too. Sadly, not having toast. Better luck next time. Be doing your best. Denki Kaminari sighed as another school semester started. He hated school, much preferring physical activities over sitting in place all day trying to remember facts and figures that always seemed to slip away. Only English class brightened his day, as if fate decided you'll be dumb as a rock, but good in English to make up for it. Still, he wished he could go out skateboarding or even doing parkour instead of sitting in class. That reminded him of the two people he met in the park earlier in the summer. Man, he envied their mad free running skills. Hopefully, he'd run into them next summer. Sinking into her seat, Mina Ashido looked toward the window, finding her classmate staring out of it with a sad expression on his face. She shared the same class as Eijiro Kirishima since they were little, but never could seem to talk. To an extrovert like Mina, her shy and quiet classmate seemed like a visitor from another planet. Ei pretended to stare out the window, but instead studied Ashido's appearance in the reflection. He'd distantly been aware of her for years, but now every time he looked at her his heart started pounding. Like she'd ever notice a loser like him. Tsuyu Ajui sat down beside Habuko Mongoose after giving her snake-like fried a hug. While she would miss seeing her younger siblings all day, being back in class excited her, especially getting to spend time with Habuko. Her friend held her hand. "It's really great to get to see you again, Tsuyu." "Ribbit," Tsuyu said happily. "You too, Habuko." Okako Yurika arrived at school early, both happy and sad that summer break ended. The school provided free meals for breakfast and lunch, which really saved the family money, but she wouldn't be able to help dad and mom with the family business. They never allowed her to do it directly, but she went to the job site to watch, making heavy things weightless for the workers whenever she got the chance. The workers never told her parents, of course, since it made their jobs much easier and her parents would absolutely forbid it if they knew, but she wanted to do everything in her power to help her family. They'd finished 2 more jobs over the summer than expected, and the extra income, at least temporarily, eased some of their stress. They'd been so happy, they'd even decided to splurge a little bit and bought her a cell phone. Sure, they could only afford an ancient flip phone, but she loved it. She promised herself she'd keep it safe until she graduated high school. Mom even offered to take her shopping for new clothes, but Okako insisted on shopping for her clothes at the recycle shops. After all, she mostly wore her school uniform, and they spent too much on it already. Masharao Ajiro settled awkwardly into his desk, gently maneuvering his tail through the hole in the back. Several of the other students snickered at his antics, but he found out the hard way that his tail and legs would fall asleep if he tried to curl it around his waist. He didn't usually talk to many of his fellow classmates, so the surprise shocked him when he felt gentle hands stroking the fur at the back of his tail. He looked behind him, finding Masami Iwasawa with her hands on his tail. "Hi, Ajiro," she said. Did you have a nice break? Yeah, he replied, I placed second in the regional martial arts tournament in my age bracket. How was your summer, Iwasawa? Pretty boring, but we went to the beach. Wonder if I got a tan. She lifted her shirt a bit. You don't see any tan lines, do you? She asked with a laugh. Ajiro blushed like he usually did when Iwasawa teased him. Nope, I don't see anything. She hugged his tail. Story of my life. Sighing to herself, Toru Hagakure sat down. She hated their summer uniforms. Drab and boring colors with both the sleeves and skirt too short, she hated them. Most of the girls loved them, but for Toru, she wanted to burn hers. You see, she thought, the problem with being transparent is that it shows as much as it hides. She could wear a black sports bra that matched the school uniform, so it could barely be seen. Panties were the problem. Even if she sat like a proper young lady, anyone in the room in front of her could see up her skirt. White cotton, blue stripes, some cute animal design, they showed no matter how she sat. Her classmates' knees effectively blocked the view of their own panties, but Toru didn't have that luxury, and going commando would be even more humiliating. Fortunately, her teacher knew how much it embarrassed her, and allowed Toru to sit at the front of the class. As class let out, Ms. Taiga asked, Hagakure, would you stay a minute, please? Toru nodded, then reminded herself of the futility of expressions like that, and said yes, ma'am. She and her parents could see a hazy sort of outline, but to everyone else she may as well be a ghost. She sighed as several of the boys chose to use the door at the front of the room and steal quick glimpses. She buried her head in her arms when she heard, blue strips. Pay up. Could this day get any worse? Ms. Taiga, a short but caring woman, walked over to Hagakure. Hagakure, dear. I've talked to the principal again. Considering your special circumstance, he's agreed to allow you to wear black bike shorts under your skirt. It isn't really keeping with the dress code, but he agrees that we have to make allowances. Thank you so much, Hagakure cried. I'm so sorry for causing trouble. Ms. Taiga patted her shoulder. It's okay, Hagakure.
Okay, you guys are gonna read a little bit of this your own, because I'm not gonna listen to this whole chapter. This chapter is BS to me.
Minoru Mineta waited all summer.
That's why I want to make sure some hearts are saved in case anything happens.
The girls looked at him with open disgust. Ms. Kagami stared at the class.
Yeah, I am not like this chapter because I read it. You guys gonna read it with me. Read it in your mind. I just this may be better though.
Chapter 12, A Whole New Beginning. Izuku walked awkwardly to the front of the class, grabbing one of the dry erase markers and writing his name in kanji on the board. He bowed to the class, taking a deep breath as he did to calm his nerves. I'm Izuku Midoriya. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and I hope that you'll be patient with me as I learn about the school. I live with my mother, who works for Might Incorporated. My hobbies include running, weightlifting, and analyzing quirks. My favorite hero is All Might. He nodded toward Tinya, but Ingenium is cool too, and I'm a big hero fan. My goal is to attend UA and become a hero myself. Izuku woke before the alarm he set last night, quickly dressing for his morning run. As he exited his room, he saw Tinya leaving the guest room dressed for a run as well. Good morning, Tinya. First day of school. I'm excited. Tinya nodded. I am as well. I'm sorry to see summer break come to an end, but I look forward to the challenges we'll conquer this year. We still have plenty of time for a long run, so let's go, shall we? Sure. The two boys quietly exited the house to not wake Izuku's mother, beginning their run. Izuku's speed and stamina increased steadily over the past 2 months, but the last week showed a dramatic improvement. Before, he pushed himself to keep up with Tinya, but now he kept pace with his speedy friend comfortably. As they ran past the Ida household, Tensei Ida joined them. Well, look at the two future heroes giving it their all, he said, dropping into pace with the younger boys. I'm impressed. We'll need to do a marathon soon. Of course. We've got to go beyond, Tinya stated. Plus Ultra. Izuku shouted cheerfully. Yeah, I'm sure you two will be students at UA before you know it. Shota told me about how Izuku's a clear and present danger to exercise equipment everywhere, Tensei said with a laugh. It was just one force plate. Izuku protested, face turning red and not from exertion. What's this about a force plate? Tinya asked. You didn't tell me about that. Because it's humiliating, Izuku muttered. No, it's not, Tensei chuckled. You know Izuku visited Might Tower, Tinya. Well, All Might had him try pushing on a vertical force plate, just to get an idea of Ya Boy's strength. Not only did he max the sensors out, but he ripped the entire machine from where it was bolted to the floor and yeeted the whole thing out the 40th floor window. Izuku! Tinya cried. You should be more careful. You or others could have been seriously hurt. Also, brother, I ask that you please stop trying to use slang. You're only marginally better at it than I am, and I always sound like an idiot when I try. This is why I didn't tell anyone. It was an accident and I already got scolded by Endeavor, Izuku said with a pout. Welcome to the club, Tensei grinned. We had shirts made. I'll teach you the scolded by Endeavor Club secret handshake later. It places a lot of emphasis on the middle finger. They moved through the park, Tinya and Tensei using the small maze to improve their ability to turn corners rapidly while Izuku kept pace with his parkour. Seriously, Everyone has similar stories from when they were learning to use their quirks, Izuku. There are tensei-shaped dents in a lot of walls around Tokyo, and a couple of Tenya-shaped ones at our house. Not going to lie and say it isn't funny, but almost every pro hero has stories like that. Nemuri once put her entire class to sleep in elementary school and has been banned from every Mexican restaurant in Tokyo. She's in a one-sided love affair with refried beans. Shota gave himself a migraine trying to use erasure in front of a mirror. Hisashi has broken more wine glasses than an opera singer. Okay, I feel a little better, Izuku said as they reached the Ida estate. Tensei nodded. Good. Walk back to Izuku's house to cool down, you too. And have a good first day at school. By the time they returned to the Midoriya home, they found a huge breakfast set out for them courtesy of Inko. They ate with gusto, complimenting her on the meal. After that, they each got ready in one of the two bathrooms upstairs. Izuku wore his Sume uniform for the first time, admiring the cut of the suit and how comfortable the material felt. His uniform for Aldera never fit quite right and always itched, but this new uniform felt tailored specifically for him. As he exited his suite, Tenya exited the guest room wearing a nearly identical but slightly modified uniform that allowed his leg engines to stick out the back. I must say, Izuku, Sume's school uniform suits you. I hope we both enjoy a wonderful school year. Thanks, Tenya, Izuku replied. None of the past few months seemed real until now. I'm really getting a chance to start over with a great real friend now. Tenya tilted his head to the side, quizzically. Surely you had friends at your previous school. You're an admirable person, Izuku, and I've been lucky for the chance to know you. My old classmates wouldn't agree with you, Izuku said, shaking his head sadly. To them I was just a quirkless loser. How despicable! Tenya exclaimed. After a moment, Tenya added softly, I hope that you know I'm not only your friend because of your quirk. Never thought it for a second, Izuku said, but felt a bit of shame in his heart. He'd spent so long being quirkless that part of him expected everyone to treat him that way when they found out. He had yet to experience it in Tokyo, but now he used the cover story that his quirk existed all along, just too weak to detect but strengthening rapidly as he grew older. He double-checked his bag, ensuring he remembered the doctor's note from Recovery Girl excusing him from any quirk-related PE exercises. If anyone gives you trouble, you can come to me. Sume shall not tolerate such villainy. The two boys walked downstairs to find Izuku's mother and All Might waiting outside for them. Oh, such handsome young men, Izuku's mom cried, channeling her inner Midnight. She took several pictures of the boys standing in front of the house, with All Might, and with her. Tenya even took several photos with the Midoriya family standing with All Might, although he moved several steps back to get All Might's head in the picture. If it won't be too embarrassing, we'll walk you boys to school. It is on our way to Might Tower, after all, All Might said, leaving the choice open for the boys to refuse. Embarrassing? Izuku asked. That sounds amazing. Izuku's debut became the talk of the school with the number one hero escorting him. All Might even patted his head at the gate before he received a hug from his mother. As the two adults continued toward Might Tower, Izuku and Tenya entered the school, finding their lockers and changing into their school slippers to the background hum of people asking his name, how he knew All Might, and if he knew Ida. Tenya placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Come along, Izuku. I know where our classroom is. Tenya led the way, and the two entered their classroom before any other students, although their teacher arrived prior to the boys. Both boys bowed, and Tenya said, Mr. Masaki, I hope you had a pleasant summer. Please allow me to introduce my friend, Izuku Midoriya. Oh, but you've already met, haven't you? Mr. Masaki returned the bow. Yes, we met early in the summer. I had a good break, visited my grandfather's shrine in Okayama. I hope that you both got all your homework done and still had time for some fun. It helps that you're already friends. Midoriya, I'll have you sit in front of Ida, so that he can help you get used to the school. Certainly, sir. Well, the seat would have been empty. The teacher frowned. Todoroki withdrew from the school. That's surprising, Ida said. He turned to Izuku. One of my classmates last year was Shoto Todoroki. His father is Endeavor. He never talked much but was a polite and intelligent boy. I think the two of you would have gotten along well. Mr. Masaka smiled. Well, be careful boys. A lot of the girls were infatuated with Todoroki. With him gone, they may set their sights on one or both of you, he teased. Trust me, I know it may sound nice, but the last thing you want is to end up with a bunch of girls fighting over you. The rest of the class filtered in over the next 15 minutes, several of them greeting Tinya and Izuku, and then chatting amongst themselves about their summer breaks. Izuku found that he could remember their names with ease without resorting to repeating their names on a loop in his own head. He always struggled remembering details before, so it certainly seemed strange to not experience any difficulty, his ever-present notebook a crutch to combat that exact problem. Maybe a lack of stress made memorization easier. Once everyone arrived and found their seats, the bell rang. Tinya rose, saying loudly, "Stand." After the rest of the class did so, he said bow, and the rest of the class bowed to their teacher before dropping into their seats. Thank you all for the warm welcome, Mr. Masaka said. A few announcements before we get started. I'm sorry to say that Todoroki has withdrawn from the school. We also have a new student, a transfer from Musudafo in the Shizuoka Prefecture, the home of UA. Midoriya, if you would, please come up and introduce yourself. Izuku walked awkwardly to the front of the class, grabbing one of the dry erase markers and writing his name in kanji on the board. He bowed to the class, taking a deep breath as he did to calm his nerves. I'm Izuku Midoriya. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and I hope that you'll be patient with me as I learn about the school. I live with my mother, who works for Might Incorporated. My hobbies include running, weightlifting, and analyzing quirks. My favorite hero is All Might, he nodded toward Tinya, but Ingenium is cool too, and I'm a big hero fan. My goal is to attend UA and become a hero myself. One of the girls raised her hand, and the teacher nodded to her. Was that you with All Might earlier? Izuku gulped. Yes, All Might is my neighbor and he's been giving me advice on weightlifting. The scenario repeated with the boy raising his hand with Mr. Masaka nodding. What is your quirk? Well, Izuku blushed. I have an enhancement quirk, but it's subtyped as a power accumulation quirk. The more I use it, the stronger and faster I get. It's called ultra augmentation. This led to a bit of whispering before another boy raised his hand. How strong are you? The boy asked after his teacher's nod. I'm not really sure. It was too weak to do much for a long time. He looked at Tinya, who gave him a thumbs up and mouthed, everyone has stories like that. I kind of broke the machine in my tower that was measuring that, and they haven't gotten a replacement yet. The room erupted with shouted questions, before Mr. Masaki held up his hands and the ding quieted. You broke a strength measuring machine at All Might's headquarters, his teacher said. Tinya stood up. Sir, if I may. Midoriya didn't break the machine, he merely broke the bolts securing it to the floor and then the window that he accidentally pushed it through. The fall from the 40th floor, and Endeavor, actually broke the machine itself. Traitor, Izuku joked as the class burst into laughter. One of the other students, Senkaibara, a boy with dark brown hair and black eyes, said, That's pretty awesome, Midoriya. Guess we'll be rivals for our spots in the hero course. Let's do our best. Other people are encouraging me. This is a whole new beginning. Izuku smiled. Yes, let's. I hope that everyone who wants to go to UA gets in so we can all be heroes together. Taking his seat, Katsuki Bakugo looked to his right, seeing Deku's desk covered in crude epithets written in Sharpie as usual. A couple of thumbtacks rested pointing upwards on the seat. Also, on the desk sat a clear vase with a red spider lily. Losers, he thought to himself, wasting their time and money on practical jokes the nerd isn't even going to see. The teacher walked in, glancing at the desk. He took off his glasses, pulled out a small microfiber cloth, and cleaned them. "All right, class," he said, "who is responsible for this?" A couple of giggles filled the classroom, but no one said anything. Katsuki rolled his eyes and went back to rereading their summer literature assignment. The teacher slammed his book down on his desk. "I said, who is responsible for this, and I expect an answer." Fingers McExtra held up his hand. "That's Deku's desk. Isn't he responsible for keeping his desk clean?" More giggles. Katsuki rolled his eyes. "It would be if that was Midoriya's desk," the teacher sighed, stressing Deku's name. "Izuku Midoriya is no longer a student here, but since you've brought it up, today we'll be discussing how several members of this class treated Midoriya during his time here."
Eh? Yeah, it shows, yeah. Extra out. Yeah. In right there, the page already.
We'll also be talking about how several members of this class think that having a good quirk means they have special privileges. We're going to learn about discrimination, quirk-based or otherwise, and how such actions have long-lasting negative consequences for both the victims and the offenders. To himself, he added, like being psychologically traumatized by a rat/bear/cat/mouse thing. Like losing your tenure. Like learning how it feels to beg on your hands and knees to keep your job with a 20% pay cut, and knowing if you didn't, you'd be banned as a teacher throughout the entire country. Like having two angry men flanking the talking animal thing, not saying a word, but looking eager to get their hands on you. Like having to personally write apologies, one to your former student and one to his mother, knowing that with the detail you had to include either one could end your career on a whim. And worst of all, knowing that compared to some of your former colleagues, you got off with the equivalent of a slap on the wrist. He let the room stew in silence, watching Katsuki Bakugo, who clicked his teeth in annoyance. Be warned, every school in this district adopted a new zero-tolerance policy around bullying. We will be having a special class every Friday on this subject until we are sure that every student understands. And until Nizu is satisfied, although I doubt that day will ever come. On that note, though he may no longer attend the school, you will show the proper respect your former classmate is owed. If I hear anyone using the term Deku again, they will serve a week of detention after school for the first offense. A month for the second offense, and we'll keep going from there. Now, go ahead to gym. We're having a special assembly to introduce the new administrative staff. The rest of the school day consisted of even more torture. Evidently, the principal, vice principals, the entire guidance counseling staff, and most of the office staff got the boot. The teachers who remained and the replacements for the fired ones forced everyone to watch a lame movie on how bullying equals bad that looked made for a target demographic of 2-year-old kids. Another lecture on discrimination and that the school considered it, surprise, unacceptable. Warnings that teachers could and would do random locker checks. Notice that bags could be checked in the morning when they arrived for school or at any other time. Being caught with a marker or flowers without pre-approval and a teacher's written permission became grounds for suspension for the first 2 offenses and expulsion on the third. Except red spider lilies. Those kicked you right up the backside to expulsion on the first offense. They spent the final 2 hours of the day on suicide baiting and why the school suddenly gave a shit. That wouldn't just get you expelled, it would be a permanent mark on your record, making you untouchable to any reputable hero school in the country, and you'd also be reported to the local police as a parting gift. Once released for the hellhole of a class, Bakugo couldn't get out of there fast enough. Fingers followed him like always. Slow down, Bakugo, where's the fire, man? The whole day pissed me off, he spat out. Stupid Deku runs off to Tokyo and decides he's a big shot. Turns out his mom got some big job working at Might Incorporated and Sume of all places let his useless ass in. Probably threatened to sue the school, so now we've got to listen to that crap. Yeah, Fingers said, it sucks. He shuffled from one foot to the next, twiddling his long fingers. You got something to say, spit it out, Bakugo fumed. Keep twisting your fingers like that, you'll get them knotted, and I told you last time I'm not helping you get them untied again, idiot. Well, I don't know, man. Fingers looked down. Maybe they've got a point. I mean, yeah, Deku's a loser and all, but we could have just ignored the quirkless freak. Bakugo laughed harshly. Yeah? You think so? Want to explain why you've got sharp stains on those freaky fingers? Hey, isn't there a flower shop right by your parents' laundromat? Bet you have no problem getting a hold of red spider lilies. Fingers hissed, I'm not trying to blame anyone. I'm just saying maybe we. Hell, maybe I was wrong. One freaking day of touchy-feely crap and everyone but him turned into a quivering pansy. Look, you want to know the truth? We were doing Deku a damn favor. He still thinks he's going to go out there and be a hero without a quirk. That's going to get him killed. A small traitorous part of him thought and taking a swan dive off the roof wouldn't get him killed. But he pushed that thought aside. We just taught him his place in the world. If he can't handle a few fights, and that's all they were, then he'd never make it in UA. Hell, he wouldn't make it at Isamu Academy, and that loser school will take anyone. Fingers held up his hands, I know, man, all I'm saying is let the schools worry about that. Hell, maybe we can get video of him falling on his face at the UA entrance exam and laugh about it. Everybody knows that Deku's going to crash and burn, just like everybody knows you're going to be a hero. First and only from Aldera to go to UA. Two big thumbs up, and he made his hands into fists with his thumbs extended and wiggling above his head comically. Just, let's keep our heads down until this crap blows over. Hell, if they had anything on us, they'd have come after us, right? Bakugo nodded, but on some level, he wondered why no one dragged him to the principal's office today. He thought Deku ratted him out to Aunt Inko, based on the hell he'd caught from his parents over the summer, although the hag claimed something else tipped his aunt off, so maybe Deku did keep his mouth shut. The old hag made it out to be worse than the situation deserved, but she'd come home from visiting Aunt Inko a week ago with Deku's old uniform. He couldn't even to deny the hand-shaped burn on the shoulder, not that he cared. Yeah, it will blow over. While Deku probably ratted out the school, the nerd smart enough to know if anything he said went on my record, Katsuki paused as his hands sparked, I'd kill him. Bakugo and Fingers went their different ways home at that point, but Bakugo headed for the woods. He changed out of his school uniform into his workout clothes, hiding his bag and uniform in a hollowed-out tree. A couple of hours blowing up trees into splinters and exploding rocks into rubble would do him a world of good, and if they reminded him of Deku, so much the better. Izuku adapted to his new school quickly, enjoying his studies like never could before. He and Tinya weren't the most popular kids by any stretch of the imagination, but neither were they outcasts. No one called him quirkless, useless, fatherless, and certainly not Deku. He continued to train with All Might and Aizawa on alternating days during the week and a variety of heroes on the weekend at Might Tower. In many ways, these experiences made up the best days of his life so far. He wouldn't call it perfect, but great certainly fit. Izuku still startled easily and tended to be shy around many of his classmates, especially the girls. He also noticed something interesting early on once school resumed. Concepts that he never clearly understood in several subjects just suddenly made sense. He couldn't explain it, but he seemed to figure things out easier, despite the new school's curriculum moving at a much faster pace. He still made sure to miss a few questions in every test and on the homework, a habit ingrained by years of his classmates taking their frustrations out on him when he outperformed everyone else. He made sure to always lag behind Tina in particular. Language arts class tripped him up, though. His teacher assigned a standard 3.5 essay over the weekend, and Izuku never expected to be asked to stay after class a few days after turning it in. He felt dread creeping over him as the bell rang. Tina put a hand on his shoulder. "I can wait for you, if you'd like," his friend offered. "That's okay, Tina," Izuku said. "I'm not sure how long it will take. I'll text you when I'm done. Maybe we can go over our history homework over Zoom tonight." Any excuse to use his fancy new computer. Yes, he googled Midnight's original costume, but felt so guilty about it afterwards he could barely form sentences when talking to her for a week. That fact seemed to amuse her to no end and only made it worse. She knew. Somehow, she knew. As Tina left with a bow to their teacher, Ms. Amatsu returned the bow and then closed the door. She walked over to Izuku's desk, turning Tina's chair around and facing Izuku. He gulped. "You seem really nervous, Midoriya," she said. "Take a few moments to relax, you're not in any trouble. I just wanted to talk to you about your paper." "Yes, ma'am," he said, taking several deep breaths. "I'm sorry, ma'am, did I do the assignment wrong?" She looked down at the paper. "Well, no. Midoriya, did you get help with this?" He shook his head. "No, I looked up several sources, but I cited them all. I came up with most of the arguments though." She nodded. "That's not the issue. Other than the sources you properly cited, none of these points showed up on the plagiarism software. In fact, some of these interpretations didn't show up anywhere at all. I've been teaching this novel for over 10 years, and you gave me an entirely unique perspective. It's also technically perfect. Midoriya, I've never had a better paper turned in on this subject, and I've taught this book at the college level. That's why I wanted to make sure no one helped you. Do you think you can remember the basic ideas of your 3.5? "Yes, ma'am," Izuku said. He recited his opening paragraph and then added a few other thoughts he came up with since turning it in. He did the same for each of the 3 supporting paragraphs that followed, delivering them word for word before including extra ideas that could have made the paper even stronger. He finally reached his conclusion, also accurately quoting it. The entire time, his teacher kept looking between him and his paper, shock becoming clearer the further he went. Noticing this, Izuku felt panic rising in his heart, and he damned himself for the tears that slipped out. The use of light imagery during the funeral scene implies that the main character is trying to delude himself into thinking that he can see auras, giving the impression that he had an invisible quirk, when he was quirkless the entire time. The various shades of the other characters align perfectly with his preconceived notions of them, and the one character he knows has a quirk is the only one he ascribes a gold aura to as a parallel to his own, even though his sister also has a quirk, but he doesn't know that, so he describes hers as dull and gray. That paints the entire work, especially when you consider that it was written early after the first quirks started to rise in the population. Viewed through a historical lens, light was often a metaphor for quirks because of the glowing baby in China. The main character desperately wanted to be special, even though at the time less than a fraction of a percent of people had a quirk. "If I got it wrong, I'll rewrite it and fix it. I swear, Ms. Amatsu, it's my work." "Oh, Midoriya, you're not in trouble at all," she said, patting his shoulder comfortingly. "I just had to make sure. This is wonderful. You obviously know the material and you're writing at, or maybe even above, college level. I've read the book dozens of times, and you understood it better than I ever have." The boy's entire body seemed to relax in an instant. Oh, I'm sure you know it much better than me, ma'am. I've only read it the one time, after all. I've never been particularly good at literature. She shook her head. Your grades from your previous school would seem to agree with you, but this is astonishing work. Were you bored at your old school? Are you bored now? Oh, no ma'am. I really enjoyed the book and could sympathize with the main character. I'm just shocked you thought I did a good job. She had even more questions now. Did none of your previous teachers tell you that you had a real talent for writing? He shook his head. No, ma'am. I usually got an average grade on essays, no matter how hard I tried. She feared she already knew the answer based on some disturbing rumors she heard from other teachers, but she asked anyway. Where did you transfer from, Midoriya? Aldera Public in Musudafu, he whispered, looking down. That opened a whole can of worms, then. You have my absolute promise, right here and right now, that work of this caliber will always get an A in my class, no matter how you answer or even if you don't want to answer my next question, understand? He nodded, still looking down. What is your quirk? Izuku gulped, knowing that this might mark the end of his fun school days, but then he remembered, quirkless Deku no longer existed. I was misdiagnosed as quirkless, but it's a physical augmentation quirk called ultra augmentation. I only found out about it shortly before I transferred. I think my old papers were good, but this one was a lot better. Yukari Amatsu groaned silently. A lot to unpack here, everything tangled around this perceptive boy. His earlier teachers grading him harshly because of believed quirkless, just one possibility. After all, she knew the Department of Education fired Aldera's entire language arts department in disgrace. On the other hand, enhancement quirks could be hard to pin down easily. Worse, it could be both. Midoriya, have you seen a quirk counselor? She asked. Yes, ma'am. I'm having weekly meetings with Ms. Kayama. Not one of the school counselors, then. Oh, no, she, works for UA and Might Incorporated. She blinked. Kayama? Nemuri Kayama? Your quirk counselor is Midnight. Yes, ma'am. My mom works for Might Incorporated and, well, All Might is, a family friend.
True.
He said it as a question. Well, next time you meet with her, ask her if it is possible if your quirk is more than just a physical enhancement quirk. You said this paper was a lot better than your previous work, and when I asked you to go over the points, you verbally repeated it to me exactly as you'd written it. Your quirk might be enhancing your intelligence too. Izuku's first day at Tsume, and
Holy shit, that chapter was almost an hour. I might need to go these two chapters together just because.
Chapter 13, Realizations. Previously, on My Hero Academia, Ultra Achievement, Prelude.
Okay, there.
Izuku didn't head home after being released by his teacher. Instead, he ran to Might Tower, taking the elevator up to the 50th floor. Midnight spent a lot less time at the tower now that school resumed sessions, but being a Friday, he knew she patrolled tonight and often stopped by the tower first. His luck held, because all three of the heroes he wanted to see stood chatting in the bullpen, All Might, Eraserhead, and Midnight, with the added bonuses of Present Mike and Gang Orca. A variety of greetings called out to him, from little listener to problem child. He greeted everyone with a bow. I might be in a bit of trouble. Well, not trouble, I don't know what to do. What's wrong, young Izuku? All Might asked, concern etched on his features. So, one of my teachers wanted me to stay late after school today, he said. Evidently my essay was one of the best she's ever read. That doesn't sound like a problem, baby boy, Midnight said. You should be proud. No, you don't understand. College level good. She thought I got help at first, but then she asked me to go over it verbally and I realized I had it memorized word for word. I know I'm good at writing, but I've never been that good, and my memory as you see, sometimes fails me, that's why I carry around notebooks to write things down. Izuku's eyes narrowed. You think? Izuku nodded. I think my quirk might be doing more than just enhancing my body. What if it's making me smarter too? He looked closely at All Might, who seemed to consider it. It might be possible, young Izuku. What do you think, Kayama? Midnight nodded. Usually, enhancement quirks mostly enhance physical attributes, but mental enhancement isn't impossible. Nizu's high specs is a good example. Sometimes there's also a minor mental boost that goes along with a physical enhancement. Tensei's visual acuity and reaction time is much higher than a normal person to handle moving at high speeds, and he can read and write reports faster than the other stooges as a result. An across-the-board enhancer is almost unheard of, but nothing is impossible. You know, All Might said, I do recall doing better in school after my quirk came in. Perhaps we're distantly related, young Izuku. Izuku caught All Might's subtle hint. One for All didn't just raise his strength, constitution, and dexterity, it bumped up his other stats as well. Except charisma, Izuku thought glumly, oh well, everyone has a dump stat somewhere on their character sheet. What do I do? Izuku asked. Izuku knew and accepted his intelligence, but realizing he might push into genius territory frightened him a bit. Well, I'm qualified to give an IQ test, Midnight said. No outside materials, and it will be age appropriate. It will give you your current range and takes about 2 hours. Just to warn you though, IQ can fluctuate, and I expect that as you age and your quirk enhances you more, that number will only rise, so if it is lower than you expect, don't be discouraged. With that, Izuku and Midnight took over Sir Nightai's old office, since it still contained a desk and chairs. She'd retrieved a packet of material and began asking Izuku questions, one after another. He answered back as quickly as he could. They seemed to switch from one topic to another, some of them requiring complex math formulas to calculate, while others just seemed for fun, like name as many animals as you can in 60 seconds. After 30 minutes, Midnight asked if he wanted to take a break, but he shook his head. They continued, finishing up another 30 minutes later. You can go talk to the other heroes, baby boy, she said. It will take me a few minutes to calculate your score. Thank you, Midnight. That was pretty fun. Izuku returned to the bullpen, making sure to spend some time talking to Gang Orca. Midnight mentioned that the killer whale hero endured a rough patrol earlier in the week, taunted as a monster by a group of school children. He hated hearing that, since he'd gotten to know how much Kyojo Sakamoto liked kids and wanted to be a role model. If Izuku could encourage him and make him feel even a little bit better, he'd gladly do it. Gang Orca nudged Izuku when Midnight came back into the room. Moment of truth, Izuku. Midnight looked over at Izuku. Do you want to know privately or right here? I'm fine with everyone knowing, whatever the result is. IQ is measured in standard deviations from average, or 100. Each deviation is 15 points. The test I used measures up to 4 deviations either way, so the lowest it goes is 40 and the highest is 160. Even I'm not as bad when giving out concert tickets on the radio, Nem. Present Mike said. Don't keep us in suspense, You sound like you're giving exposition. Our Izuku Midoriya maxed out the test, so his base is at 160. Beyond that, it becomes harder to measure and he'd need a much more robust test from a professional facility, and honestly, it would be a bit pointless. Best to wait until you're much older and just know that you're in the top 0.1% of the global population. Not to mention that he finished it in an hour, and most of that time was me reading the questions to him. The quickest I've ever heard of it being done is 90 minutes. Aizawa knelt beside Izuku. You know what this means, kid? Izuku thought for a moment. Well, a lot of things, but I'm not sure what you mean specifically. You've got no excuses for not acing all of your classes. Izuku groaned. Being a Friday, Izuku worked out with Gang Orca for a bit using the new basement facilities. Over the past few weeks, they discovered that Izuku could summon incredible strength for static exercises, but when he tried to move too fast while calling on his power, it caused incredible strain on his body. He'd tried limiting the power like the doctor suggested, but he could barely lift 200 kilograms that way. Izuku walked home stewing in frustration. He just didn't know what to do anymore. Supposedly, a genius, he couldn't figure out how to use his power without risking injury. The situation confounded All Might as well. His master passed one for all to him at the age of 15, but he could use it at 100% practically from the day he received it. His IQ presented another problem. All the pro heroes he knew and looked up to knew about it now, and even the ones not at the tower today would know soon. Heroes gossiped. It would make the rounds at UA too. Plus, Mizumatsu would probably bring his essay up to the other teachers. He found himself once again stuck between adults and his peers. Speaking of peers, he logged onto his computer and sent a Zoom invitation to Tinya, who answered after a few moments. Izuku. I was getting worried. I know you go to my tower on Fridays, but it's been almost 5 hours since school let out. Sorry, Tinya, Izuku said. Turns out my essay was really good, and Mizumatsu thought I might have cheated. Once she realized that I hadn't, well, she said that my quirk might be enhancing my brain. I went to my tower to ask Midnight about it. Did she give you an IQ test? Aunt Nemuri gave me one a year ago. I'm rather proud of my score of 142. Izuku blushed. I got a bit higher than that, but it's because of my quirk. You're still a genius, Tinya. Tinya smiled. Izuku, I'm smart enough to recognize that you're smarter than I am, and don't hold that against you at all. In fact, that's one of the reasons I'm glad you set up this call. I wanted to ask you something. Sure. Izuku replied. Well, Tinya scratched the back of his head. Why do you always miss the 7th question on any test? You and I usually compare answers, and I noticed this pattern a while ago. Even when it is a concept you've explained to me, you always miss the 7th question. You miss others as well, but... Izuku, are you purposefully not doing your best? Izuku looked down. He racked his brain trying to figure out what to say, how to answer his friend. He never knew anyone like Tinya before, and he felt guilty for misleading his friend. Yes, he whispered finally. Izuku, I'm not mad, but please tell me why, Tinya said. We're both aiming to be heroes, so we should always try to do our best. Izuku felt on the verge of tears. Would you like to come stay the night? It's Friday, after all, and I'd just rather talk about it in person if that's okay. That shouldn't be a problem. Give me a few moments to inform my parents and I will be there. Thanks, Tinya. The doorbell surprised Izuku with a ring 2 minutes later, but then his mom yelled, Izuku. Tensei and Tinya are here. Izuku ran down the stairs to find the two brothers chatting with his mom. Wow, that was fast, Tinya. Don't tell me you used your quirk. Tensei laughed. I was playing Luke Skywalker to his Yoda. I'm meeting the Three Stooges for a late dinner. Izuku discovered that whenever talking to Eraserhead, Present Mic, Midnight, or Ingenium, that whichever one he talked to would call the other three the Three Stooges. He looked the reference up, followed by searching for every movie he could find. Thanks to that research, he got the reference and could respond appropriately. But if they're the Three Stooges, doesn't that make you Shemp? Ouch. Sick burn. Nobody wants to be Shemp. Tensei winced as Tinya rolled his eyes. Thanks for looking after my little brother, Mrs. Midoriya. Izuku's mom smiled. He's always a pleasure. Be safe out there. No worries, just dinner tonight, since Mike has to do his show and the other two have patrol later. Besides, it's physically impossible for any of us itis to use our quirks when we drink. Alcohol goes right to our engines and causes them to backfire. I'll either abstain or take a taxi. I didn't know that, Tinya said. There better not be a reason you'd need to, Tensei shot back with a grin. Thanks again. He moved onto the street, pressed a button to activate some lighted panels on his clothes, and took off, making sure to stay within the speed limit. Any requests for dinner, boys? Inko asked. Tinya said, whatever is easiest for you is fine with me. Izuku grinned. Can we order pizza? Veggies and grilled chicken put it just inside my meal plan, so it's almost like a cheat day. Tinya nodded to assure her that he approved. Sure, I'll call you when it gets here. The boys moved upstairs, going into Izuku's study. So, Tinya said, I want to reiterate that I'm not angry, just curious. In response, Izuku lifted a bit of his shirt, pointing to one of many star-shaped burn scars. Don't tell my mom, please. He dropped the fabric back down, hiding the scars again. You know my quirk didn't come in until recently, so I was quirkless. Well, thought to be quirkless, I guess. Yes, but Izuku. Tinya looked distraught. Well, quirkless means a lot of things. Useless, helpless, hopeless, just, less. Izuku wiped his eyes on his sleeve. This, to his mind, meant a huge gamble, but he'd bet on Tinya any day. Of course, a small part of him couldn't help remembering he'd made a similar bet on Casey. Bakugo and lost. I was the only kid in the whole school without a quirk of some kind, so everyone picked on me. I was smart though, but I quickly found out that the bullying got worse if I was at the top of the class on any test. So, question number 7 became my fail-safe. Getting a perfect score on anything meant a bad beating. I'd miss other questions too once I figured out where the curve was. The worst of these are from those times I outperformed one particular student. Who is this ruffian? Tinya said with cold fury. He must be dealt with. Izuku sighed. I always called him Kaken. He always called me Deku, meaning useless. Before his quirk came in, he was my best friend and he's a very distant cousin. He's got a powerful quirk and wants to be a hero, but no one has ever told him what he was doing was wrong. Izuku used Google to pull up the article on the investigation and findings at Aldera. This is where it happened, my old school. Hopefully, the things going on there will cause him to grow up, but he's not my problem anymore. So, please, just let it go. Tinya sat down after scanning the article. If that's truly what you want, I'll respect your wishes. I hope you're right and that he does change. The world doesn't need heroes like that. Thank you, Izuku said quietly. However, Tinya said, light reflecting off his glasses as he moved his head upwards just enough to catch the glare, I will not accept you doing less than your best. What the world does need is heroes who give their all. Sume is a competitive private school where all students strive to reach the top. Everyone who attends knows that, and you know it as well. If you perform better on a test than me, or any of our classmates, that should only serve as fuel for us to improve. Promise me, Izuku, as my friend, that you will stop missing questions on purpose. Deku is in the past, Dekoru is your present. Izuku grinned. Then don't be too comfortable in the number 1 spot, Tinya. Over the following months, Izuku kept his word to his friend, getting the highest scores in all his classes. He missed questions so rarely that a few of their classmates started calling him Ace or other various nicknames, but always with hints of fondness and none of the cruelty he almost expected. Even when teachers added a college-level question, Izuku usually got it right. Izuku found a love for cryptography. They studied World War II and listened to a lecture on the Enigma machine and the Navajo code talkers in history class, and for a few months, Izuku became obsessed. He studied everything he could about codes, tracking down a copy of the Voynich manuscript on the internet, a book written in code during the 15th century that hadn't been cracked for over 600 years, and probably still wouldn't be if not for a woman with a powerful psychometry quirk that allowed her to find the key. Recognizing that his quirk analysis could be dangerous in the wrong hands, Izuku set out to design a code of his own, drawing inspiration from these and other sources. Tinya helped in this project. While not quite as intelligent as Izuku, Tinya still possessed a genius-level intellect and could mostly keep up with Izuku. He made an excellent test of Izuku's rapidly evolving code, since if Tinya could figure it out without help, a small number of villains could as well. After a few months, he took his code to All Might, explaining it. Astonished by the thought Izuku put into this, All Might beamed with pride. Even with the enhancement granted by One for All, he admitted he probably couldn't break the code, particularly when considering a false code Izuku used for some of the least sensitive information and several dead-end possibilities for cracking both the false and true codes. Over the next few months, Izuku recopied all his journals into the code, and then destroyed the originals, except for the first one consisting only of crayon doodles. He felt sad to see them go, but they could endanger those featured in the pages. He ensured that All Might could translate his own rather extensive entry and that Tinya could translate his own and Tensei's entries. That way, if something should happen to Izuku, maybe his analysis could do some good. Tinya also shared the analysis of Tensei with his brother, impressing the pro-hero so much he offered to pay Izuku for the analysis at a frankly embarrassing price. Izuku refused, but gladly accepted a box of rare Team Idaten merchandise. Using One for All proved more difficult than the other areas of his life. Exercises where his movements were limited revealed incredible strength, but Izuku's durability remained unchanged. Izuku and All Might both added sparring to his daily training, but they both did that at baseline human strength. Although much faster and stronger than he used to be, he still fell into standard human ranges. Every time he tried to punch or kick with even a minimal level of his quirk, he strained his muscles and found himself forced to rest for days. Any sudden movements while sparring caused a stab of pain in his arm or his leg, whichever part of his body he used at the time. He couldn't be a hero just working out in a gym. He didn't know what to do. After several months of this stalemate, Izuku worked with All Might and Izuku in Might Tower on a Saturday. Izuku threw a punch at the sandbag in frustration, using a tiny fraction of One for All when he felt a snap and intense pain shooting up his arm. Excellent punch, All Might started to say, but then he saw Izuku's face. Oh no. Izuku did too, instantly activating Erasure and catching Izuku. He checked the arm. I think it's a hairline fracture. Izuku gritted out, it feels broken. Probably because it is, All Might confirmed, picking Izuku up and carrying him to the elevator with Izuku trailing behind them. What are we doing wrong? Izuku asked. He can't even use a fraction of One for All, but it's made him smarter. I don't know, All Might mused. I could use it right from the start. I was older, sure, but he's in great shape, physically. Izuku sighed. I wish we could pick the brain of one of the previous holders. Maybe it is different for everyone. All Might started trembling so much that Izuku asked All Might, are you okay? Yes, my boy. He looked at Izuku, maybe I can arrange for the next best thing. While the doctor checked out Izuku, All Might stepped out into the hall and made a couple of phone calls. When he came back, he looked even paler than Izuku. Well, the good news is that Recovery Girl is in Tokyo today and can finish healing young Izuku. She'll be here in 10 minutes. And the bad news? Izawa asked, his pessimistic heart drawn to the worst. Gran Torino will be here in an hour. From the medical bed, Izuku said excitedly, Gran Torino's coming. That's so cool. Yes, All Might said, punching his own leg a few times to try and stop the trembling. So cool. Recovery Girl's power healed Izuku almost instantly, and, after a few of her specially formulated gummies, he didn't even feel tired. So, she asked casually, when will Sarahiko be here? Oh, he should be here any moment, All Might said, as they moved back to the training room. Sure enough, Gran Torino walked in a moment later, saw who stood in the room, and walked out. All Might rushed to catch up to him, their argument in the hall faintly heard to Izawa and Izuku's sympathetic embarrassment for All Might and Recovery Girl's cackling amusement. It didn't escape their notice that she straightened her hair and applied lipstick. Most of what they said was too quiet for them to hear, except Al, not the cane. After a few minutes, Gran Torino came striding back in, giving an embarrassed little wave in return to Recovery Girl. So, kid, he said, looking Izuku up and down, having problems with your quirk? Izuku nodded as All Might came limping into the room. Yes sir. Thank you for coming to help, and for everything you did in Musudafu. Hear that, Toshinori? Gran Torino said smugly. Your boy here has manners, unlike some people. All Might rolled his eyes. We can't figure out what's going wrong. Static exercises, even lifting weights, none of these cause a problem. When it comes to sparring, even using a bare minimum of one for all causes intense pain or even fractures. Gran Torino rolled his eyes. All right, kiddo. I don't want you to use any power whatsoever. Push against the wall. Izuku put his hands on the wall, bending his back and extending one leg behind him. He pushed for a few minutes. Okay, good, the elderly hero said, glancing around the room and seeing a bar with 200 kilograms on it. Spot the kid, Toshinori. Lift it. No quirk usage. Again, Izuku complied, bending at the knees to scoop up the bar and raise it above his head in a few smooth motions. At Gran Torino's nod, he set the bar down again. All right, punch me. Sir. Izuku asked. You heard me, boy. Give me a punch. Knock me on my wrinkled butt. No need for you to worry, remember. No quirks. Izuku approached Gran Torino, drew back his fist and punched. Gran Torino easily sidestepped the blow, appearing behind Izuku and gently shoving, sending Izuku sprawling onto the mat. Okay, that was pathetic. Don't know why you all needed me. Recovery Girl probably saw it too. She nodded. I think so, Sarahiko. Let's repeat the first two, only this time pull up your quirk. Izuku did, pushing against the wall while being careful not to push through it. He lifted the bar in a swift motion like it was made of styrofoam. The elderly hero stared at All Might, Izawa, and Izuku. If this were a cartoon, this is the part where the light bulbs should be appearing over your heads. Now, get in a stance and ready to throw a punch with your quirk, but don't do it. What's different about the punch from the first two? Where's your quirk? In my arm. Izuku groaned as realization struck. I'm only using my arm for the punch. Exactly. Your little friend, the road runner boy, does he keep his arms at his sides when he runs? No, he moves his arms just as much to keep his balance. But that's how All Might punches, Izuku protested. Gran Torino whacked him in the head with his cane. Of course, he does, because he's lazy. Hey! All Might yelled. I punch that way because I'm inviting villains to attack me rather than civilians or other heroes. I know I can take it. Yeah, but the kid can't. You've been teaching him how you fight now, and I bet that's been spilling over into his training with Aizawa. Maybe I should spar with you to refresh your memory. That's not how you started out, remember? All Might nodded quickly. That won't be necessary. I remember perfectly. So, Izuku said, when I'm pushing against the wall or lifting, I'm using my whole body. The power is spread out because I'm using my legs, arms, and back. When I punch, though, I'm just focusing the power on my arm. It's creating an imbalance. There's power in my arm, or even just my fist, but nowhere else. Smart kid. You're a fanboy, right? Haven't you seen old footage of Toshinori? Izuku nodded. He was much more mobile, putting his whole body into his attacks. That's what let him use the power from the start. That also let him build up his body evenly. One for All will enhance whatever part of you it's used on and gradually enhance those areas permanently. That's why Toshinori is practically indestructible, because of those years enhancing his whole body. He instinctively calls it up everywhere, even if he's just throwing a standing punch at someone. Without that base experience though, you're trying to use it in isolation. Like loading up a cart but putting all the weight over a single wheel, it'll tip over. But I've been meditating while calling it up every day. Gran Torino whacked Izuku in the head with his cane. Yeah, and when you meditate, you aren't moving, Zygote. The only part you're supposedly using when you meditate is that noggin of yours, and that's the only part showing real improvement. Gran Torino threw his hands up. These numbskulls are so worried that they haven't been letting you move while using it. Hell, you ought to have it pulled up as much as you can. Swimming, dancing, free running, martial arts, yoga, even walking to school. Any of those will work all your muscles while you're mobile. That's what's been tripping you up, you're only using it with your whole body when you're basically staying in one place. It will take 20 years to get up to Toshinori's base level that way. Gran Torino scratched his scraggly beard. Call up the power kid. You and I are going to play tag. Tag? Izuku asked. Isn't that for kids? Playing is usually great for the whole body. There should be adult-sized playgrounds right beside the ones for the kiddies in parks, Gran Torino said. Besides, hate to break it to you, but you are a kid. As for me, I'm kid-sized, so close enough. Now pull up a bit of the power and try some moves, slow and gentle at first. Izuku called up One for All, feeling the faint hum of the power coursing through his body. He started doing some stretches as a warm-up, moving through one of the easier yoga routines his mom did regularly. Hey, it does feel different. Aizawa nodded. You might be going a little fast, kid. Izuku blinked. He tried to take it nice and slow. Gran Torino grinned. It's the enhancement. His speed is boosted. Probably didn't even realize it until you talked and dropped him out of it. Think you can move like that? Izuku nodded. I think so. Gran Torino did a few stretches. Couple of rules, then. You've got 15 minutes to put both hands on me at the same time. You do that, and let's see, I'll give you the very first thing Toshinori ever signed as All Might. Holy whoa. Broken bones might be a small price to pay. What if I can't catch you? Gran Torino smiled. Then once you decide on a hero name, you have to give me your first autograph. Selling the first autographs of 2 symbols of peace should just about cover my retirement. Go. With that, Gran Torino shot into the air like a bullet from a gun, bouncing around the room like a pinball. Izuku leaped after him, running and spinning every time the older hero changed direction. Torino made excellent use of cover, hiding behind All Might to cost Izuku several seconds, having to go around the number 1 hero or wedging himself in a corner of the gym, out of Izuku's reach. Before long, the two bounced around the rafters as almost a blur. Then Izuku got an idea, coming at Gran Torino in a way that slowly led him right where Izuku wanted him. Coming after Gran Torino from the high right, the older hero jumped down from the rafters to hide behind Eraserhead. Torino forgot that Recovery Girl stood beside the underground hero as well. With a yelp, Torino shot straight up into the air after receiving a playful pinch from the youthful heroine. Izuku took this chance to shoot forward, grabbing both of Gran Torino's shoulders. Gran Torino scowled at Izuku and Recovery Girl while All Might laughed loudly. Izuku tried his best to maintain his stoic demeanor, but even his eyes crinkled upwards with repressed laughter. Bunch of cheaters, all of ya. Picking on an old man like that. Izuku smiled. I used it for 10 whole minutes, and I feel great. Thank you so much, Grandpa Torino. He pulled the quirk back up, going through a yoga routine. To the assembled heroes, it looked like a video slightly sped up as Izuku fluidly switched positions. All Might whispered, he doesn't even realize he's doing it, does he? Izuku nodded. Hey Izuku, he said, and the boy immediately slowed back down to normal speed. We'll set up some obstacle courses down here and work on parkour and yoga while using one for all. We'll keep sparring, but strictly without quirks until you get the hang of it. Sounds good. Izuku replied enthusiastically. Gran Torino is so much fun. Only one.
Okay, we're doing the next chapter, then maybe in the session, maybe. Depending how long it's been. I'm really right. Hey, yeah, I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a drink, as I am thirsty. Which one do you take? Because, it's the house, and I want to choose. Do I take apple or that? I'm not sure. Not actually longer. I after I had my drink, I did two things. First, just stretches, get my body, not I don't want my body to be stiff, stiff from the sitting here the whole time. And I need to check on my sauces, check on my preference sauces, the small ones. To know after work if I have to if I have to work, I have to buy meat, buy nothing more. But yeah, that's what it was.
Chapter 14, Taking Out the Trash. With a bit of a time skip and a training montage, we reach the final chapter of My Hero Academia, Ultra Achievement, Prelude. Fear not, citizens, for this tale will continue. The next few years saw Izuku Midoriya develop rapidly, one for all coursing through his body except during school and while sleeping. He claimed the top spot in his class from his friend, and as time went on, became much more proficient in using one for all. By the time he and Ida started their final year at Tsume, Izuku added almost 20 centimeters to his height and molded his body into the rock-hard shape of a bodybuilder, while still keeping an incredible amount of flexibility. With Aizawa keeping close watch, All Might added quirked sparring back into their routine, and now Izuku could handle roughly 10% of All Might's base power. This allowed Izuku to go all out while All Might could always supply a bigger challenge. He also got to spar with other heroes, either members of All Might's agency or friends of the heroes he knew. Of all of them, Midnight provided the most trouble, since Izuku neither wanted to hit her or risk grappling with her. While All Might and Aizawa remained his absolute favorite heroes, the opportunity to spar with other heroes kept Izuku on his toes. A surprise visit from Ectoplasm made Izuku feel like the star of an action movie, and fighting against Edgeshot fueled happy memories of watching ninja movies. He still got beaten most of the time, since he faced pro heroes, after all, but he learned a lot and they always took the time to provide encouragement and instruction. Sometimes weekend training involved lessons on being a hero, even simple things like working at a soup kitchen or taking part in charity events. All Might dedicated several weekends in a row to learning CPR, first aid, the Heimlich maneuver, setting broken bones, and other medical scenarios that might need to be performed in an emergency. Tinya often joined them for those weekends and even took part in sparring with the heroes. The two boys sparred occasionally against each other under the watchful eyes of Eraserhead and Ingenium. While Izuku possessed an advantage in strength, Tinya kept an edge in speed, able to use hit and run tactics that proved surprisingly effective. Working together, the boys both improved, Izuku adding more kicking to his repertoire while Tinya added punches to his. Now, with 8 months left until the UA entrance exam and plenty of time off thanks to the summer break, All Might and Aizawa both kicked things up a notch, every day bringing a new surprise. Last week, they went on a scavenger hunt through Tokyo following clues left by Aizawa to test their parkour and detective skills. Tsume let out on Thursday for the summer because of some building upgrades being done over the break, while the public schools all let out Friday. All Might encouraged Izuku to invite Tinya to special training. Make sure you boys wear older clothes and pack a change of clothes and a swimsuit as well. It will be a long day, so let your parents know that you'll be with me. On Friday, Izuku and Tinya both woke before dawn and got their 10-kilometer run finished quickly. Izuku wore a red shirt with the caption "dress shirt" on it, a pair of old jogging shorts, and a pair of beat-up old sneakers, complete with tracking chips from Aizawa. Ida dressed in some of Tensei's hand-me-downs, a blue t-shirt with a few stains on it, and matching jogging shorts complete with matching stains. The Ida family tore through shoes at the same rate other families went through a roll of toilet paper. While still relatively nice, the white sneakers Tinya wore were several months old, which practically made them ancient for a family that usually replaced shoes on a weekly basis. They met in front of All Might's house to find his driveway filled with a huge red pickup truck. So, All Might said, clapping his hands, "How about we take a trip to the beach today?" Nodding enthusiastically, the boys piled into the cab of the truck with All Might driving. Before long, All Might turned onto the expressway. What beach are we going to, All Might? Izuku asked. Why, Dagaba Beach in Musudafu. In the very town where you were born, young Izuku. And where you both will attend school when you're accepted into UA. All Might chuckled at Izuku's groan. But Dagaba is a dump. Izuku, Tinya said, I'm sure we'll have a perfectly good time. Look at it this way, it might be in a smaller town than Tokyo, but that just means it will be less crowded. Izuku rolled his eyes. Oh, I promise, Tinya, we'll have it all to ourselves. All Might laughed again at Tinya's confusion. Young Izuku is right, young Tinya. Dagaba is a dump, literally. People use it as an illegal trash dump. Since Izawa is at summer training camp with his third years, I figured we could use the summer break to perform a bit of community service and clean the beach. That's why I bought this all-American pickup truck made in Detroit, Michigan. I've already had dumpsters delivered to the site, but we can take anything usable we find to the recycle shops. You boys can keep anything we make that way as a little extra spending money. How big is this beach we're talking about? Ida asked, adjusting his glasses. Izuku groaned again. It's huge. It would take someone a year to clean it. Only if they didn't use their quirks, All Might corrected. Might Incorporated recently purchased the beach. Since it is now private property, you're allowed to use your quirks there if you have the owner's permission. And you do. I believe it will only take the two of you 6 weeks, leaving the last 2 weeks of summer as an all-expenses-paid trip to the I-Expo on I-Island as a reward. So, let's go beyond. Plus ultra, the three chorused. Looking out at the mountains of trash littering the beach, Tinya regretted his earlier enthusiasm. This nightmare of rubbish spanned almost 3 kilometers of beach buried in trash. Junked cars and refrigerators, old televisions, and other things that did not even bear thinking about littered the landscape. Tinya wanted to pour a bucket of hand sanitizer over himself and then take a shower. I feel like I need a tetanus shot just standing here, Izuku muttered, and Tinya agreed, his eye twitching at the sight. All Might motioned to the bins. Burnable trash in the red one, recyclables in the green one, non-burnable in the orange one, and oversized in the blue one. Anything that looks medical or biological, leave it. We'll wear safety equipment and place that in the black biohazard bin later. As for the cars, young Izuku, you'll be responsible for bringing those up here. They'll be towed to UA later for training exercises. He handed heavy work gloves to both the boys. If there's anything you can't lift, just leave it for now and work around it. There's a cooler with drinks in the truck. I'm going to do a quick patrol, so I'll be back around lunchtime. With a leap, All Might disappeared into the distance. What if we need a restroom? Tinya called out to the back of the hero, but All Might couldn't hear him from this distance. Izuku pointed to a public restroom from the beach's days as a public facility. I suppose we'll go in there if the water is on. If not, well, he gestured toward to ocean, every little bit helps. Tinya did not look amused, but after a few moments let out a chuckle. Very well. I will start with the smaller appliances. I'll start with the cars, Izuku said. With a few hours of work, the two boys demolished the pile of trash closest to the entrance, but it also represented one of the smaller piles. Once they'd cleaned the area directly at the bottom of the steps, they found shovels and buckets with screens on the bottom of them in the back of the truck. They cleaned the area thoroughly, carefully sifting the sand to remove broken glass, small bits of metal, and a set of car keys. They even found a diamond wedding ring that they carefully set aside. Hopefully, the local police received a report about it, so they could return it to the rightful owner. The beach served as a dump in the state for as long as Izuku could remember. Izuku brought up 2 cars as well. One seemed a burnt-out husk, but the other one appeared in decent shape, although it missed its engine. Working together, they filled the dumpsters except for the black biohazard one. So far, neither boy found anything that looked dangerous, and both felt relief they didn't find any syringes buried in the sand. Looking at the small patch they managed to clean so far, Tina could almost believe that this beach looked lovely once. Shame that people have let this place fall into such a state. It must have been incredibly beautiful. Izuku stood up with his fist clenched. We're going to clean this beach. Not in 6 weeks, but in 5. Yes, let's. Tina agreed, fired up by his friend's enthusiasm. They turned to the sound of clapping as All Might stood at the top of the stairs, returned from his patrol with sandwiches and an ajiri. I admire your spirit, my young heroes-to-be. Already you're exceeding my expectations. After a quick lunch, plus a quick change of dumpsters from the local sanitation department, the boys threw themselves back into work. Tina handled the small stuff and Izuku tackled the heavy items, but on medium-sized items like refrigerators, they worked together. Ida even found a mostly intact motorcycle and managed to get it up the stairs by himself. Izuku added a third car to their collection, this one battered to the point that it looked more wrinkled than Gran Torino. As he set it down, he heard glass breaking, but a quick check showed all the windows still intact. Maybe something from the piles still on the beach shifted and broke. Working even quicker now that they'd gotten their system down, they cleared out another pile, this one much larger than the first. Unnoticed by the boys and their guardian, a viscous green liquid dripped from the trunk of the car. Once a large enough puddle built up, 2 eyes formed on the surface, looking around. Spotting All Might, the puddle quivered, and glanced around once more. It spotted a sewer grate and shot toward it, disappearing into the darkness with a sickening sound. Around 3 o'clock, Izuku grabbed a bottle of water from the cooler only to realize only the one in his hand remained. Hey, Tina, he yelled, tossing the bottle to his friend, hydrate. I'm going to the convenience store to get some more. That's the last one. All Might stood and took out his wallet, handing Izuku 50,000 yen. You should both go. The walk will give your muscles some time to recover. Okay, Izuku said, but no helping while we're gone. We want to do this. All Might chuckled, holding up his laptop and a book he'd brought along. Izuku led the way. While he hadn't visited Musudafu for 3 years, he spent the first 12 years of his life here. Dagaba Beach defined the city's border with the ocean, not far from Aldera Elementary and Middle School, and he remembered a convenience store close to them run by a kind older couple. On several days, they let Izuku hide behind the counter as his bullies ran past their shop. Another school year ended, and Katsuki Bakugo looked forward to this summer. Sure, Aldera changed a lot after Deku left, but Katsuki still ruled over that place. Maybe he chose his methods of reminding people of the natural order a little more carefully, but enough of the old administration survived the storm from a few years ago thanks to political connections. One of them even flat out told him as long as you don't do anything too severe on campus, you'll be fine. The school has no say in your behavior off the school grounds. He buckled down and studied for a bit as grading now applied evenly across the board, but Katsuki held the #1 spot in the school his entire career and he earned most of that. Intelligence and hard work came naturally to him, so he almost appreciated the reminder because it kept him from getting complacent. He'd do his summer homework tomorrow, but for now, he wanted to celebrate summer break like he always did, by blowing something up. Shame that it would be rocks and trees instead of the damn nerd. He headed to the woods but stopped when he spotted something at that lame convenience store by the shopping center. No way, he thought, but that's got to be Deku. He ducked into the small tunnel under one of the bridges to make sure he stayed out of sight. It certainly looked like Deku with some four-eyed freak, talking and laughing like friends, as if anyone wanted to willingly hang out with that quirkless loser. Only the mop of green hair tipped him off to the boy's identity. Deku evidently added 30 centimeters to his height and a lot of muscle in Tokyo. He rubbed his hands together to build up sweat. Finally, I'm going to kill that nerd and whoever that guy with him is. You want to kill those two, kid? Katsuki heard a gurgling voice behind him ask. That's good because I do too. I'll give you a hand. It's a damn shame you won't live to see it, but I promise they'll die by your hands. He felt something cold and clammy touch him and instinctively released a huge explosion, the sound echoing through the underpass and causing a mild ringing in his ears. Get the hell off me, he yelled, but already the smelly liquid covered his legs and chest. No can do, kid, Sludge said, but damn, you're powerful. I'm going to try and keep you mostly alive. I'll have to scoop out your higher brain and take up residence in your skull. I should be able to keep you going for months that way. Katsuki blasted the sludge but couldn't get much off without risking hurting himself. Thinking quickly, he pointed both hands down at an angle, releasing a huge blast that shot him out of the tunnel and into the middle of the shopping center. Oh, naughty, the sludge villain laughed, flowing over his arms, and lifting them away from the ground. Can't have you doing that again, but feel free to let loose as much as you want now. The stinking sewage constricted around his forearms, forcing sparks in his hands to ignite his sweat, blowing the windows off the stores in the shopping mall. After a few minutes spent catching up with Mr. and Mrs. Fujihara who owned the convenience store, Izuku and Tinya started to leave with the drinks and All Might's change when they heard an explosion from the nearby bridge. A gas explosion? Tinya asked, but moments later two loud bangs came from the direction of the nearby shopping center. Izuku tensed. Explosions in Musudafu usually meant Kabukigo, but then again, he wouldn't be setting them off in public where it could go on his permanent record. You might be right. Grabbing their bags, he dropped them back off with the Fujiharas. Let's go see if anyone needs help. By the time the two boys reached the shopping center, backdraft blocked the area with a line of water. Death Arms, Kamui Woods, and Slugger stood nearby, joined by the newcomer, MT Lady. She protected civilians with her huge arms while Kamui Woods grabbed patrons of the shopping center to hand to her, but as far as Izuku could tell, Death Arms and Slugger just watched. In the center of the action, a figure stood arms flailing around while releasing loud blasts every few moments. The thing appeared mostly made of slime, despite the explosions initially leading Izuku to suspect Bakugo based on the similar quirk. Why aren't they doing anything? Tinya asked. Kamui Woods overheard them and recognized Izuku. Although not a member of the Might Agency, Edgeshot served as a mentor to the forest-themed hero, and he spent one afternoon a month ago sparring with the boy. Midoriya, he said, landing near the edge of the restricted area, it's no good. No one here has a good match against this thing's quirk, and it has a hostage. Looking closer, Izuku could see now that near the top of the pile of slime was a face with blonde hair and red eyes. He watched in horror as more of the foul liquid flowed up the figure before moving toward the blonde's mouth and nose. He'll suffocate. Izuku started to step forward, but Tinya put a hand on his arm. Izuku, you don't have a license. No, but I do have a plan. He looked at the pro hero. Kamui Woods, will you give us permission to act? I can promise All Might will support you and we won't use our quirks directly against the villain. Shinji hesitated. He knew All Might's fondness for the boy, but endangering civilians meant a huge risk. Still, the hostage could die. Even if it went wrong, his reputation could weather any backlash, especially with All Might's backing. Yes, I'll vouch for you, Midoriya. In the background, the sludge creature taunted the heroes about how it would suffocate the boy. Good. He and Tinya jumped the barrier and ran over with Kamui Woods to join the rest of the heroes. Listen up, I've got a plan, but I need your help. What the hell is this? Death Arms said scornfully. Kamui. Get these punks out of here. Kamui Woods shrugged. This kid is Izuku Midoriya, and All Might has been training him. If he says he has a plan, that's good enough for me, so I'll accept full responsibility. It beats standing around waiting and ending up with a dead kid on our hands. Death Arms grit his teeth, but then shrugged. They'd all heard it. If this went pear-shaped, it would be Kyon2261 who ended up as one of those IKEA bookcases. Fine, but for the record this is a bad idea. Better one dead kid than three, but if it sounds like it will work, fine. What you got, kid? The green-haired punk nodded. I'll distract that thing and try to keep enough of it off the hostage's mouth so he can breathe. Slugger, when it's distracted, hit the eyes of that thing with your fastball special move. That's the only part of it that hasn't changed, so that's probably a weak spot. Kyon2261, get behind him and get ready to pull the hostage out of the slime with your lacquer chain prison. Death Arms huffed. He already tried that. You're wasting time. Izuku hissed. Listen. I know the hostage, his name is Katsuki Bakugo. He's a middle school student. His quirk is what is causing the explosions, but he can only project them from his hands, so if they're pointed away from the prison, it should be fine. Not what I meant, punk. The slime's too thick, so LCP won't do dick. That's where you and Backdraft come in. Izuku pointed to a nearby fire hydrant and played up his natural hero-worshipping tendencies to appeal to Death Arms' ego, even if the man was acting like a spoiled douche nozzle. I've seen you punch through a semi's engine block, so that should snap like a toothpick for someone as powerful as you, right, Death Arms? Hell yeah, no problem, PU kid. Okay, so the kid was starting to earn a bit of respect. Backdraft, when Death Arms breaks the hydrant, direct all of the water at the sludge villain and keep pouring it on. We're going to dilute him and overwhelm his ability to control his form. Tinya, between when Bakugo is pulled free and the slime is completely diluted, it will probably go for me. As soon as it weakens enough, I'll give you a signal. I need you to grab me and run for the hydrant through the water. It will keep the slime from clinging to either of us. Death Arms shrugged. Okay, not a bad plan. Whichever way this goes, kid, you've got balls. Let's do it. Ini, Izuku took off running. Meanie, Death Arms grabbed the fire hydrant. Miney, Kyon2261 maneuvered behind the villain. Hey Mo! Izuku shouted, running forward, using a pile of rubble to vault upwards, and poking the sludge villain in both eyes with his pointer and middle finger, with a silent thanks to Izuku's love of ancient comedy. The creature thrashed around, screaming in agony, and forcing Bakugo to release another blast straight into Izuku, but he'd been taking hits from that explosion quirk since the age of 5. It didn't stop him then and it wouldn't stop him now. He leaped back up, ripping away chunks of slime from Bakugo's face as a baseball slammed into the sludge villain's eyes, punctuated by another pained shout. Deku! What the hell are you doing here? Get away from me, you damn nerd! Bakugo, for once in your life shut up. I'm saving you, so take breaths while you can. You can throw a damn temper tantrum later. Bakugo's eyes flared with rage, but he started taking in huge gulping breaths to supersaturate his blood with oxygen like Izuku did. Moments later, a torrent of cold water slammed into them, shocking the two boys and the sludge villain. Kyon2261's quirk flared out, gripping Bakugo and pulling him loose from the slime, whipping him through the raging stream of water to make sure the slime cleared. As Izuku expected, the slime tried to grasp him, but as Backdraft continued to direct the water and hold it in an expanding globe around the sludge villain, Izuku felt the monster's grip weakening. His lungs burned from the desire to take a breath, but then he finally saw what he needed. The villain's eyes rolled upward and closed. Grabbing the eyes in one hand, he gave a thumbs up with the other. Tinya slammed into his friend, pushing them both through the watery sphere out the other side with a yell of recipro burst. The blast of water cleaned any lingering sludge off the two boys, and honestly, they could use a bath anyway after spending all day cleaning the beach. Izuku rolled onto his feet. I've got him. I need something to put him in, he yelled, holding up the two eyes. A man in a trench coat flashed a badge and directed Izuku to a nearby Iron Maiden, a specifically designed mobile quirk-suppressing cell. He dropped the two eyeballs inside, and the body of an emaciated man materialized around the eyes. Izuku looked at the figure in shock. He looked like a homeless salaryman who went months without eating. The police detective, a tall man wearing a trench coat and a hat despite the heat, laid a hand on his shoulder. Don't worry, that's his natural form. He's been in and out of jail multiple times. He always forgets to eat when he's in his sludge form. Izuku nodded. So, it's a transformation rather than a mutant quirk. Apparently, the eyes are the only part that stays constant between the two forms and somehow his intellect is contained in them. I'm glad I got both. If I'd only gotten one, it might have caused serious damage or been fatal if they were separated. You're right, but we need to address the issue of illegal quirk usage, the police officer said. Would it help if you knew I didn't activate my quirk at all? Izuku nodded toward Tinya. He only used his quirk to rescue me from drowning, so it should be excused under the Good Samaritan statutes. Kamui Woods allowed us to act if we didn't use our quirks to directly cause harm to the villain, which we didn't. All Might will support this too. He reached into his back pocket and retrieved his, thankfully waterproof, wallet and handed the detective one of All Might's business cards. He looked around now, noting multiple news cameras filming the area. Holy whoa, there's probably a ton of footage too. Mom's going to kill me. I mean, not literally. The detective looked at him quizzically for a moment, turning him and the boy so they weren't facing the cameras. He whispered, hiding his mouth from the cameras with his hand, your name wouldn't happen to be Izuku Midoriya, would it? Izuku's eyes widened. Oh wow. Do you have a mind-reading quirk or clairvoyance? Oh, wait, I handed you a card. Maybe psychometry? Sorry, yes, I'm Izuku Midoriya. None of those, my quirk is called Truthsayer, and I can tell when someone lies to me. I finally get to meet you. You're All Might's kid without a doubt. Every time I see him, I get another news story about some amazing thing you've done. 3 years now and he brags about you like you hung the moon. I thought he was making you up, like something out of, and he dropped his voice even lower, The Three Musketeers. Izuku's eyes widened at the hint about One for All. All Might's kid? No. I'm real, I'm sure I'm not whatever you're thinking. Calm down. I've been friends with Toshinori for a long time now. He's told me all about you. Naomasa Tsukachi. I'm the police liaison with All Might's agency and UA. I knew he was coming down to the beach with you today and was planning to stop by to meet you, but I didn't expect you to get involved in a villain attack. Grab your friend and I'll take you back to the beach and get your statements on the way. Unless you want to talk to the kid you rescued. Izuku glanced over to where the EMTs checked over Bakugo, who grew more irritable by the second. Death Arms stood near them with his arms crossed over his barrel chest, keeping an eye on the explosive blonde boy while some of the other heroes talked to Kamui Woods. Noticing Izuku's glance, Bakugo pulled away from the EMT. Deku, you damn nerd. I didn't ask for your help, loser. I could have taken that slime thing down all by myself. Don't think I owe you a damn thing. Death Arms gently pulled Bakugo back toward the EMTs. Izuku shook his head with a grin. No, I don't think that would be a good idea. A quick text to All Might confirmed that the detective could be trusted. MT Lady walked over to them with Tinya by her side, touching his shoulder and laughing loudly or smiling every few seconds. Every time a camera moved to a different subject, she'd laugh again, pulling their attention back. When she got close to Izuku, she leaned in and pouted. Couldn't you have found something for me to do too? I'm trying to get my name out there. Oh, sorry, but you couldn't fit in the mall while enlarged. Besides, you were already busy protecting civilians, and that was the most important thing. If you want, you can walk us over to the detective's car, right past all those cameras. I can't really give an interview, but I can probably do something to help. She laughed loudly. You're great, kid, then whispered, who the heck are you, anyway? Izuku grinned, just a kid hoping to get into UA. As they walked past the line of reporters, Izuku said, loudly enough to be overheard, everyone was so amazing. It was scary, but I knew we'd be alright with Kamui Woods, Backdraft, Slugger, and Death Arms working together to stop the sludge villain. None of them could have done it without you keeping all the civilians safe, though, MT Lady. You're so cool and I'm sure you'll become a household name before long. I'm definitely a big fan. I mean, not as big a fan as you are a hero, but you're just so amazing. Can I have your autograph, please? Sure, kid. She replied, signing a piece of paper handed to her by the detective. Hug? She asked quietly. At his bashful nod, she pulled him into a side hug, with Tinya, who she neglected to ask, in from the other side. Multiple camera bulbs flashed, and Izuku suppressed a sigh, knowing that picture would grace the internet and the front page of newspapers tomorrow, not to mention triggering weeks of teasing from certain pro-heroes. After a quick detour to pick up their drinks, the two-boy and the detective arrived at the beach to find All Might pacing. After a quick handshake between him and Tsukachi, he turned to the boys, holding up his laptop. I've already watched a video of your escapades on HeroTube of all places. Young Izuku, you should have used #1FA. I'd have come to assist. Tinya looked confused. What is that? Oh, All Might said, having forgotten that young Tinya might feature prominently in Izuku's life, but not completely in the proverbial loop. It's a request for assistance. Number 1 priority for aid. Just a little thing we came up with when I started training young Izuku. I realized there were pros on site, but I could have been there in one leap. Do you have anything to say for yourselves? Izuku and Tinya both looked down. No, sir, they said in unison. Well, I do. All Might said, that was reckless, borderline illegal, well executed, and utterly heroic. I couldn't be prouder. The boys looked up with grins at All Might's praise while Tsukachi's palm slapped onto his face. Toshinori, you're supposed to be scolding them and discouraging them from doing this sort of thing. I worked in some scolding, but look at them. Come on, Tsukachi. After a long day doing public service, they still rushed in to save a life. Not only that, but they also made sure to stay within the letter of the law. All Might's smile glinted in the evening sunlight. Surely we can't be mad at two such heroic spirits. Tsukachi's shoulders slumped. Please. Midoriya, try not to make a habit of it. My Hero Academia, Ultra Ascendance, Prelude Saga, and to be continued in My Hero Academia, Ultra Ascendance, Prelude Saga, and
From here, obviously. Wait a minute. Here's